Welcome back to the Legacy Shift podcast. There are days when parenting feels steady. You're patient, you respond thoughtfully, you pause before reacting, and you start to feel like the parent you've been working to become. And then Thursday happens. Your patience is thin. Small things begin to irritate you. You react faster than you expected. And suddenly the thought starts appearing, why am I so inconsistent? Or if I know better, why can't I stay this way? Many mothers interpret this as discipline issues, like they should be able to hold the same calm response for day after day. But today I wanted to offer you a little bit of a reframe that changes how we understand consistency completely. Consistency isn't discipline, it's a nervous system stability. A lot of mothers have something that I'd like to call capacity fluctuation, which is where we can have an immense amount of calmness one day on a Monday, and then by Friday, it just seems like it's all gone. This is a capacity fluctuation, our capacity to handle outbreaks or challenges in families based on little micro things that have happened in our nervous system throughout the several days. It changes. And based on these changes, this is where the fluctuation in our capacity to be able to access the nervous system tools that we have. So, a lot of these parenting responses, they're not produced in isolation. They're produced in the state of the nervous system. So your responses actually come from the state that your body is in. And I want to let that sink in because how we are in every single moment plays a huge impact on how we are responding to things that are going on in our life. It's how we're responding to the big mess in the mudroom or when a child throws their food all over the floor. It's how we're responding when somebody comes home very whiny from school. Do we have the capacity to handle those big emotions? Or were there a lot of micro things that had happened in that day that really reduced our capacity in those moments and in turn made us have less access to the nervous system tools? The nervous system narrows and widens based on what's going on in that fluctuation. Now, when we narrow our nervous system, it means we're going offline or we have less access to the tools that we've learned as conscious parents. And this is where sometimes guilt and shame creeps in. This is where the questions of, am I becoming my mother? Or I thought I learned this. Why can't I learn this? Where's the consistency? And then we can widen our nervous system. And that looks like being able to take little micro nervous system breaths during the day or regulating ourselves when we're feeling increased emotions or being able to change those neural pathways in our brain to be able to access our nervous system more consistently. So it's different ways of narrowing and widening our nervous system. And based on how narrow or wide our nervous system is, our responses are completely different, even if the situation is the exact same. This is why you see as parents when on Monday my child spilled milk and it was, okay, no big deal. I'm just going to clean it up. And by Friday, my child spilled the same amount of milk and flipped out. So when you're regulated, we have more patience, way more flexibility, more curiosity about maybe what's going on in our children's lives. Our reactions are a lot slower. So we can witness something that happens and we're able to instantly access our nervous system to be able to provide a calm and regulated response. But when our nervous system is super overloaded, and this happens so often as mothers, it's so easy to be overloaded. There's so many micro decisions in the day that they add up, right? So when our systems are overloaded, we tend to have faster reactions. So this is where we go offline really quick, and then our nervous system relies on learned patterns instead of new patterns. We have shorter fuses. We have less perspective of maybe what's going on in that situation. And then we also have less access to those learned tools. I do want to remind you that we don't lose the tools. Our nervous system just goes offline. We lost access to them. The tools that you've learned as a conscious parent, they're always going to be there. You're always going to be able to access them at some point. But in those moments when we're very overloaded and dysregulated, those tools just, they're gone sometimes. Our access changes based on where our nervous system is at that present moment. So it depends immensely on the nervous system load. A lot of mothers really find and believe that consistency should come from trying harder or trying to be better or willpower. But willpower is a very limited cognitive resource. Capacity is very much a physiological state. It really depends on how our bodies are showing up and how we're feeling in a moment, on how we respond and how much capacity we have. Let's break this down a little bit. So willpower asks the brain to override the body. And willpower can maybe work short term, like very short term. If you look at even like exercise programs and stuff like that, when people start with willpower, I mean, they may go for 2 or 3 days and have a lot of success in those 2 to 3 days, but they're trying to override their body. But then their body takes over and their nervous system takes over and maybe they shut down a little bit. Same thing here. Willpower asks the brain to override the body, whereas capacity allows the brain to function fully. So when we have capacity, our brain is able to function in its true authentic state. When a mother says, I know what to do, but I can't do it in that moment, that's very real. And I want you to know that as conscious parents. When you say, I know what to do, I just couldn't access it, not a knowledge gap, that's a capacity gap, which means that your capacity has been overridden. Calm isn't a decision that we make in the moment. It's learned, right? It's the result of nervous system recalibration, and it's the result of allowing our nervous system to have the room to respond. When capacity is at that limit, there's no room. What I'm talking about here is resetting our capacity so that we can ensure that our nervous system always has that room. There's a concept called stress stacking, and this is why capacity changes day to day. I'm going to introduce this concept. It's going to be a little bit of an educational moment, if you will. But basically, stress stacking. This is when the nervous system accumulates load throughout a day or throughout a week or throughout a period of time. So I know a lot of mothers can relate to this next scenario. Say you've had really poor sleep the night before. You were woken up by all of your kids and then you were tossing and turning. Like the other night, for instance, I was tossing and turning. No, my toddler was awake for 2 hours. And then I finally got him to sleep. And then I had heartburn because I am pregnant. And then I was trying to settle down from that. And then the baby started kicking and having soccer practice. And then I finally got down from that. And then I finally got into a good sleep. And then my 8-year-old woke up because he was having a belly ache. So I had to go help him out. And then after that, I was just tossing and turning for the rest of the night. So by the morning, my capacity was already very low because I was exhausted. So I had poor sleep. Pregnancy plays into that as well. There's a lot of things with pregnancy, right? Hormonal shifts are going on. Mental load of mothers, very real thing. If you're working, you got work demands, right? If you've got multiple children, you have multiple things coming at you at the same time. Often at the very same time, they're trying to tell you something. Have constant sensory inputs. There's always things coming. There's always noise. And then on top of that, there's decision fatigue. So if you've stacked all of this is called stress stacking. None of these really exist in isolation. If I was just had poor sleep that night, I probably wouldn't have had my capacity at maximum capacity that day. But it was the multitude of things that had happened before 8 o'clock in the morning. The pregnancy, the shifts, the mental load of trying to figure out what was for breakfast that day, the demands of the children, everybody talking to me at the same time. I was exhausted. The fan was on the microwave. There was decision fatigue of trying to figure out what to make that day and what to do that day. So I had a stress stack of all of these things that had happened. And this is very relatable as mothers because often we are in this stress stacking. And this is when our nervous system accumulates that load. I'm just going to remind you of that. So when we stress stack, we accumulate load. This is where maybe on Monday or Tuesday, maybe you had a really great sleep and maybe you had a really great manageable day and not a lot of stimulation. And then This is where Thursday might be, okay, you had a really rough night, your child's sick, you have a lot of pressure at work or in your business, you have a really loud environment. You're the exact same mother from Tuesday to Thursday, but there's a very different capacity there. Very different capacity between the Tuesday mother and the Thursday mother. But fundamentally, you have the same tools on Tuesday as you do on Thursday. The only difference is that capacity to be able to hold stress. So in this moment, your nervous system isn't inconsistent. It's being responsive to what's going on in the environment. Okay. And this is why shame makes consistency harder. When mothers believe that inconsistency is a character flaw, they then often respond with a lot of self-criticism. I should know better. Why isn't this working? I did all this work. I've put all this time and energy in. But all shame does is impacts our physiology. So our chest gets tight. We have more emotions. We feel it's another stress stack because now it's added to our nervous system, right? Shame increases that nervous system threat, and we go into flight or fright very easily. We're more equipped to react in that moment. And that threat then narrows access to the nervous system and the tools that we've all learned and are looking to apply in the situations. And when we have that narrow access, it reduces the consistency to respond the way we want. Shame creates the exact outcome mothers are trying to prevent. Shame doesn't increase consistency, it takes away from it. It actually increases your stress. And that's very key to remember as mothers. Let's remove that shame from our hearts and know that the Tuesday mother is very different from that Thursday mother based on capacity load. It has nothing to do with I know better, I should be better. No, it has everything to do with the capacity of us and what's going on in that day as a mother. And there is no room there for shame. We're giving ourselves a lot of grace as mothers who have a lot of things coming at us. Our goal at the end of the day is to reduce stress so that we can have a regulated nervous system. And shame is not going to add to a reducing of our stress. Okay, so I threw a lot at you there, but what does sustainable consistency actually look like? So sustainable consistency is not providing perfect responses or never reacting in a moment or staying calm all the time. That's not what sustainable consistency is. That's not sustainable at all. It's actually pretty exhausting and will increase our nervous system response because we'll feel more threat. What sustainable consistency is faster recovery after situations, repairing after any sort of rupture or experience that maybe didn't go the way you anticipated. Sustainable consistency is growing tolerance for stress or stressful situations. A sustainable consistency is also increasing our access to tools over time. So we have more access to the tools, and therefore we're able to respond in a different manner. As conscious mothers, cycle break and consistency could look like this. So it could look like an activation. So whatever happened, and then in that moment you regulate, and then there is a repair, and then there's a reflection. So regulation, repair, reflection, 3 R's, right? Not perfection. We're not looking for perfection here because that also increases our nervous system response. What we are looking for is that regulation, repair, and reflection. Your children, I just want to remind you this from the bottom of my heart, they don't need a perfectly regulated parent. Your children aren't looking for perfection. They're not looking for you to be perfect and to be perfectly regulated. What they need is a parent who returns back to them. What they need is a parent who shows what repair looks like and what reflection looks like and what growth and development looks like. And a parent that feels safe doing that in front of their children. Nervous system regulation built outside stress determines how much access we have inside those stressful moments. A lot of parents, I find, really try to only regulate during the conflict moments, the tough moments. But what the nervous system really learns is safety through repetition when things are calm, providing your nervous system with safety when you are having a calm experience. The real work on nervous system responses and building your nervous system happens actually outside conflict. It happens in those quiet moments on the day-to-day of walking in the door, from being out, and how you can be regulated in those calm moments. It's happening in those calm moments before bedtime when you feel really regulated and can handle what's going on with all of the kids, or it's happening in those moments when you're on the phone and someone else needs something and you feel really great and regulated in those moments. That is when the real work happens, not inside the moments of conflict. Consistency is really built in those moments where your nervous system feels so safe. Something that I am really excited to begin sharing are micro integration. So little moments and little pockets of the day where we can help regulate our nervous system in those calm states to really have that nervous system baseline reset. It's a simple practice. It's not another long routine. It's not like you have to sit there for hours and hours or write out all these thoughts and feelings. Not an obligation. I just want to make that clear. What it is, a small snippet of a nervous system reset. I'm going to give you an example of what this could look like. And this is more, again, to have another tool in your tool belt. So if you are feeling your nervous system become unregulated, this is a tool that you can use even when you are regulated, even when you're not regulated, but also when you're calm and you have a couple minutes and you're like, you know what, I want to regulate my nervous system. So this is a 3-minute baseline practice. First 1 minute of slow breathing. I'm going to show you what this looks like. Just sitting here and breathing nice and slow for 1 minute. Okay. For the next minute, I want you to notice the sensations that are going on in your body. So just from that one breath, I noticed immediately my shoulders started falling. My chest became less tight. My tone became calmer, right? And then in the final minute, I want you to name your current state, whatever that is. You're not looking to fix it. You're just looking to notice where you are in that moment. The awareness outside of stress, this is what builds capacity inside stress. And this is how we regulate our nervous systems and teach our nervous systems new neural pathways. You are not inconsistent because you lack discipline. You are responding from fluctuating nervous system capacity. That's what's happening. Consistency grows when safety grows, and stable inputs create those stable outputs. Every moment that you regulate, repair, and return back to, you're building steadier nervous systems and steadier baseline for both you and your children. I want you to notice this week when your capacity feels wider, when you have more capacity. And then I also want you to notice when it feels a lot thinner. And this isn't to judge yourself. This isn't to shame. This is just to understand what goes into creating a wide and thinner capacity. Because when mothers can understand where their nervous system lies, parenting becomes less about control and more about capacity. And this is why I've created the capacity reset experience. What it is a short guided experience designed to help you increase your nervous system capacity, everything we talked about today. So the calm that you already have inside you becomes easier to access in everyday parenting. It's not through trying harder, it's not through monitoring yourself, but through gently widening your nervous system window of safety. If you've ever had one of those hard moments where you react and then immediately feel shame or self-criticism, I've created a tool called the Regulated Mirror. This is a private GPT tool that you can use in those moments after a reaction. You can write exactly what happened, be messy, emotional, honest, and it responds with a grounded reflection to help you bring your nervous system back toward regulation. There's no fixing, there's no judging. I just want to make that clear. It's just a steadying moment that you can return back to your regulated self. So both of these resources are linked in the show notes if you want support outside of today's podcast. And if today's episode helped you see your parenting through a little bit more compassion and understanding, you might consider sharing it with another mother who may need this reminder as well. Breaking generational cycles isn't about perfection. It's about slowly building the capacity to return. And that return changes generations. I'll see you in the next episode.